Hey, how are you? So, Angular Material version 19 is going to bring in a lot of other changes in other respects, but one of the main changes I found really useful was in the documentation side. And if I show you this quickly here, so you can see that they have added in the component section, and you can see here that it is a release candidate version here that I'm using. So, it's not released yet, but they have added a new styling tab in all of the components, especially, and they have explained how to use this to override specific design tokens, and finally, there's a comprehensive list of all of the design tokens corresponding to each component, which you can search as well. And you can make granular customizations on the visual look and feel of your material components. So in this video, we're going to be looking at exactly this and how we can use this and the power of design tokens to change the visual look and feel of one of my own projects. So this is the YouTube sidebar, if you remember this from one of my earlier tutorials. Now we changed it from this default Material 3 look and feel to the look and feel that I wanted and I had in my original tutorial. Some viewers were complaining on my original tutorial that they started a project with the new Material 3 design and they could not replicate this same style that was there in the original YouTube video. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we can use the new Material Docs tab to actually customize our sidebar component to the visual look and feel that we want without touching anything else, right? Okay, so let's first start by discussing what are design tokens that I'm talking about. So the design tokens are basically a feature of Material 3 design, which are basically properties, specific properties related to specific material components, which we can override or customize so that we can customize the look and feel of these material components. So these can correspond to the color, these can correspond to the other shapes of components like the border radius and stuff, the border color, etc. And there is a long list of these design tokens which were introduced in Angular Material version 18, but there was no official documentation or exhaustive list or comprehensive list of all of these design tokens which we could refer to if we wanted to customize our own material components. Well, that ship has sailed, and with version 19, it's not released yet, but in the upcoming version 19, this new styling tab is going to help us a lot in that. So you have a whole searchable section of all of the design tokens. So for example, this is the mat list component. And in the styling tab, you can see that all of these design tokens are available. We can copy them and we can use this same method that is given here using a SAS mixin for this purpose. And we can add granular customization to our mat list using any of these design tokens. You can filter by color, typography, and the density, which are the three dimensions on which the material theming works. And honestly, this promises to make our customization of material components really easy. You don't really need to use the official or the default theming of the material design if your project requires so. You can easily customize and granularly customize your material components according to your own needs of your projects and your clients. Okay, but how do we test this? I'm going to test this all out on my Angular YouTube sidebar that I built in one of my previous tutorials. So if I show you the final result is something like this. This was the same visual feel that we had when we used Material Design 2 out of the box. Now I want to maintain this, but I want to switch to the Material 3 theming API because I want to use the latest features of the Material 3 theming. So let me show you the styles or SAS of my project here to give you an idea of how we do this. So we use Angular Material as mat, which gives us access to the Material theming APIs, the SAS mixins in SAS. And then we use the mat.define theme function to actually define our theme. Now, when we use this function, this means that we are using the Material 3 theming APIs. For Material 2, there are a different set of theming APIs which are a bit more complex. So this is really simple. We just need to specify the color, the theme type, and the primary color here. This is required. The other colors are not that required. All right. And I'm just using the Azure palette here for just for an initial color palette. Otherwise, I'm not using this Azure colors and everything in my sidebar because I'm overriding those colors. All right. And then we just include this in my HTML here using mat.all. Okay. So once I did this on my Angular YouTube sidebar after updating to version 18, I saw that the visual appearance became something like this. Now, this is the default changes in the Angular Material 3 design, but it is quite a departure from the original design that I had. And since a lot of people like that design, and personally I also like that, I wanted to maintain that look and feel while using this Material 3 theming API as well. So the simplest option was to use the CSS design tokens to actually test this out. So let's see how we can do that. So first of all, we are going to look at which Angular material component we actually want to override. And we'll then go to that documentation, and let's go in my code now. So I'm going to split the screen here. I'm going to put the sidebar on the right and my code at the left here. And if I go in my code at this point in my menu item component, I can see that I am using the mat list item directive here, which means I'm using the mat list item component. So we are going to go in my documentation, we are going to go in the components, and we're going to go in my list option here. And remember that we are using the release candidate version here. So otherwise the styling tab is not going to appear. And now this is just about the documentation. The support for material design tokens is actually present in from version 18 onwards. All right. So you can use that. So if we go in styling here for the material list item, you can see that there is an official way given here is to import the use Angular material as mat in the style, and then we can use the include mat.list overrides mix in and give in the design specific design token overriding that. Simple enough. Let's do that for our menu item. So we're going to copy this and we're going to go in our styles for the menu item component, and in our styles here at the top we're going to do use Angular material as mat. All right. And then we have two classes already applied to the menu item component. And the first one is the menu item. Now, this is the class which corresponds to the menu item in its normal state. And then we have a selected menu item which applies to when the router link is active, which means this state, this red state here. And if we go on to this one, this state which is selected here. All right. So let's first do it for the menu item and go step by step on each of the properties that we want to change. So if we go in menu item here, we want to add the include overrides here. So we're going to do include and mat.list overrides. And here we are going to give our design tokens. Now, so which design tokens do we need? So firstly, we want to, if you compare it to this one, firstly, we want to remove this circular sort of indicator. And if we search here, we can search for the active indicator color here. Okay. So this active indicator color, or in fact, we need the active indicator shape as well. This is the first thing that we need to change. And this is corresponding to that border radius that we want. So we're just going to copy this and we want to make this as 0 pixels. So let's save this. Okay, it's giving an issue because I added a semicolon, which is not allowed here. So once we save this, you can see that we have removed this circular thing, which was giving a very bad view of when we did nested items here. All right. So this is the first change. Then we want to change the color of this indicator item as well, because it doesn't sit well with our red color, which is the primary color that we need. We just want it to be a gray override like our initial YouTube sidebar. So here we can go in our active indicator color option here, and we can copy this, and here we can give a sort of a grayish color. Let's test this out. And now we can see that we have this selected icon here, which looks nice. We can actually make this a bit darker as well. So let's make this 0.1, and this looks a bit better to me. All right. So what about the height of the list item? You can see that in the original sidebar, the height was something like this. And if we, for example, inspect this, we can see what the height will be like. So the height is about 56 pixels, as you can see. So we want to match that, and let's go and let's search for height here. So when we search for height here, there are about 3 or 4 properties. We want this one, list item 1, one line container height. Okay, so this is the container height, but it's for one line list, and we have a one line list here. So we're just going to copy this, and the container height, we're going to make this as 56 pixels. Okay, let's save this. And now you can see we have the same height as we did for our original YouTube sidebar. All right, so far so good. Let's now change the selected sort of menu item properties, because we want to have this nice red sort of indicator which we had earlier. So let's now go to the selected menu item, and we can just copy this. Now we can change what we want. So the first thing we want to change is the icon color. And if we now search for the icon color here, we can now find that there are multiple icons. So there is a leading icon, you can see, and there is a trailing icon. So what we want is a leading icon color, right? So let's do leading. Then there's a leading icon color here as well. So this is what we want to change, all right? So let's copy this. We are going to use the CSS variable that we already have for this purpose, which is the primary color one. Now, once we change that, that's fine. But once we hover over this, you will see that it turns to sort of the original color still when we don't want that behavior. So what we want to do is that there's also another sort of design token which corresponds to the hover state of the same icon color. So we're just going to copy this and we are going to do list item hover color. Let's try this out. And now you can see when we even hover over this, it's working fine. Now this was sort of missing from the documentation here. So I'm expecting that before release, they are going to fix out these small sort of missing things and it's going to be more comprehensive. All right. So, and then we have the text as well. So you can see the text is also red here. So we want the text to have the same color. So let's find out the text, which is the label. So we're going to search for the label here. And this is list item label text color. So let's copy this list item label text color. And let's also make this the primary color. All right. And you can see that this color changes. But again, on hover, this color changes. And then also when it's active, this color sort of has the same problem as with the icon. So we need to actually override the hover and the focus state as well. All right. So there are two states. So list item focus label text and then list item hover label text color. So it's also going to be the same. Let's try this out. And now you can see that this color is consistent. It doesn't change on hover or on getting activated or deactivated. All right. So all in all, it looks really nice till now. There are some subtle changes that I want to make. So if you look at this, you are going to see that there is this border on the side nav, which funnily enough in Material 3 design, they have actually removed this and they've made this transparent. So we want to override this next. So how do we do that? So then our component is changing. That means, so it's not going to be the list item component here. We actually want to refer to the side nav component here. So let's go to the side nav component, and in our app component, you can see that we have our side nav declared here. So we are going to override that side nav component here, something like this, right? And also we need to again do the use angular material as matte here as before. And then in the side nav, which properties do we change? We are going to go in our menu here and we're going to select the side nav here like this, go in the styling tab like this. So we're just going to copy this in. Now the great thing about this is this method of design token customization is that it can be scoped to any level that you want. So the current menu items that we have overridden, they are basically scoped to this class. So if this class is not applied or this is removed, this means that these styles or these overrides are not going to be applied to it. This is not applied globally. So all of these styles overrides are restricted to our sidebar component and the specific class that we have added to these components. It's not going to spill over into the rest of the app. So let's go back to the matte side nav and we can see here that we have this include here. So let's just copy this here. Let's see what properties you want to change. So the first property you want to change, as I said before, was the border here. What I want is the divider. So the container divider color is basically what we want to change. As I mentioned that it's turned transparent now. So let's just copy this and we're going to change this to slight grayish color, something like this. And let's save this. And when we save this and we see this nice border returned back to our side nav so that it's separated from our content. One thing you'll notice is that the border here is also curved. So this is the shape of the divider. So we can also override that. And if we can do the container shape, so this is then the border radius, and we can now make this 0 pixels. Let's save this, and you can now see that it becomes straight just as you want to here. Lastly, just a last bit of touch, we want this to be visually white so that it's a bit distinct from the other stuff in the app. We can do container background color. We want it to be white. All right. So now you can see that we are able to achieve the same visual look and feel as we wanted to just by overriding a few design tokens. And all of this is scoped to our sidebar component. So if I show you, for example, if we go in our menu item component and I, for example, comment these out, you can see that we went from which style to which. So if I save this, this was our original style, as you can see, and we went from this to this using just these collection of design tokens. Pretty nice. Great. So now you can use the same method to customize your own Angular material components as you see fit. You are not restricted by the default styles provided by Angular material components. You might prefer those styles, I prefer some of the new styles, but I don't like some of the new changes as well. And if you don't like them, the Angular Material team has provided this nice documentation, which is upcoming in version 19. It's not released yet, but you can still use it, and it really helps us to customize the Angular Material components according to our own preferences. Okay, so if you want to get this latest version, I have updated this on my shop. You can find it in the link in the description where you can purchase it. And if you have already purchased it from my shop, you can go in your receipt, which you can access the updated version, which I have already uploaded. All right. If you like this video, be sure to like. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, I welcome you to subscribe to the channel so that it can reach more people like you and Angular developers who want to level up their skills. So thanks for watching. And till next time, I'm going to see you with another interesting video.